Welcome to yet another weekly Forex forecast, traders. As always, we will start with the DXY. We reacted beautifully off of this weekly area of demand. And if you look, the dotted lines represent a monthly area of demand. So this is a monthly / weekly area of demand and control. And in my opinion, that is why we have seen significant pushes up on the US dollar. I think we might hesitate around the 102.5, 103 area on the DXY, maybe pull back a little bit, but ultimately I could see us going even higher. I know that's probably for another forecast, but for now, just a reminder, weekly and monthly demand is in control on the DXY. On the 1 hour chart, my bottom right screen, you can see we clearly have lost momentum here. However, on the 4 hour chart, we actually get a good idea of what this trend really looks like. So you can see beautiful 4 hour trend to the upside here. We kind of peaked out here. To me, it looks like we will be going even higher up to this 4 hour supply, up to 102.53. In my opinion, that is where I would be looking to see a move up to. So as long as this 4 hour trend line is holding, even if we pull back or hit the trend line and respect it, as long as the trend line is holding, I am going to remain somewhat bullish on the DXY. It doesn't mean I won't point out counter trend shorts throughout this weekly Forex forecast. I will. I'm just saying the higher odd situation, since on the higher time frames, we have a weekly monthly demand and control, along with the fact that we have a beautiful 4 hour upward trend line. In my opinion, all signs are pointing to the upside right now on the DXY in the US dollar. All right, on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. We reacted off of the weekly supplies and above, pushing down. So the liquidity was easily targeted there. Just like the inverse of the DXY, I think we will hesitate around this weekly area of a rally-based rally here. I don't have it as demand as far as my chain analysis goes. I'm not going to get into detail about that here, but I just don't have that demand. But honestly, it's a good rally-based rally. I think we will at least hesitate around that area of demand. Now, on the daily chart this past week, something very, very significant has taken place. If you look at the daily time frame here, we had a beautiful upward trend line on the daily chart, and we broke clearly below the trend line. Now, a lot of the times we will see a fake up below the trend line and a quick snap back up, basically stopping everyone out who is trading long the trend line. I don't think that's going to happen here, and the reason is because we have a clear demand zone down below at 1.09, and in my opinion, supply and demand kind of acts as a magnet to price. So I do think we will be pulling back down to this daily area demand. And honestly, it's a good area to get maybe a swing trade in and even a day trade in. I'm not saying that we're going to push off this daily demand and then go to these highs. I'm not saying that, but it could be used for maybe a quick little trade. Even a move like this big on the daily chart, if you zoom down into an H1, or let's say you're trading a 5-minute chart, you can really get a lot of, a nice move in that move, on a lower time frame. So that is our kind of our higher time frame daily demand that I'm looking forward to seeing a pullback to. Now, as far as the lower time frames go, on the 1 hour chart, we actually have a 1 hour downward trend line. So this is definitely a sign to suggest, hey, we are going to be pulling back down to that daily demand that we were just talking about. So this is one thing I think we should be monitoring this upcoming week, is this 1 hour downward trend line. As long as this downward trend line is holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be completely good to go. So you definitely want to monitor this trend line, draw it exactly the way I drew it. It's the proper way to draw a trend line. But something that we could hesitate to, right? So like I said, the 1 hour downward trend line over here is definitely suggesting that we could pull back down to the daily demand. However, on the intermediate time frame, which is the 4 hour chart, you can see we have a clear 4 hour area of demand here. Now, it wasn't quite hit yet. Just barely. You can pretty much call it in control. That's fine. But we definitely have to get through this 4 hour demand. I think this 4 hour demand could be good for maybe a move up to the 112 areas. We'll have to see what happens. And we actually pointed out, we've been pointing out this 4 hour demand zone back here from a couple weekly Forex forecasts ago. So make sure you go back and watch the previous forecast. We also pointed out this zone, but it was pretty much a losing trade unless you were looking for a one-to-one strategy. So now this 4 hour demand, it's not bad. What I don't love is that it's pretty much a reaction off of the previous 4 hour demand. So it's definitely lower odds, but I think we could see maybe a small move, maybe even up to the high to it before we end up breaking. So I think there's money to be made at this 4 hour demand zone. So what you could be waiting for is waiting for this demand zone to actually be hit, or if you want to call it tested now, that's fine. I understand. It looks pretty tested to me. You could be looking for confirmation longs on a 15-minute chart, even a 5-minute time frame as well. And if you guys are enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I do these weekly Forex forecast videos every single Saturday. I have a great tips playlist here on YouTube as well that you should watch if you want to get more familiar with supply and demand trading. So this is our 4-hour demand zone. We need to see breakthrough to really suggest that we're going to, get down to that daily area of demand. Again, on the 1-hour chart, we have the 1-hour downward trend line. So you could be getting in short, but remember, we have a pretty good 4-hour zone here. So it could maybe kind of go against you. So I know it might be confusing. I like to point out both sides of the trades usually. So I see reason for longs off this demand. And with the 1-hour downward trend line, I also see reasons to short. So if you're long, if you're bullish, this is our 4-hour demand zone. And if you're bearish, we want to be trading short the 1-hour downward trend line on the day trading timeframes. And then even if we break this 4-hour demand zone, that's fine. If we have a 4-hour supply zone, that would be a great short trading opportunity to trade down to the daily demand at 1.09. Alrighty, on to the forecast for gold. You can see the past couple weeks we got a beautiful move off of that daily demand zone. Go back and watch the weekly Forex forecast. We were calling out this exact area of demand. Beautiful move off the zone. But this past week we did cleanly remove this area of demand. But if you look, the overall trend is kind of still up. And I mean, the weekly trend is up, the monthly trend is up, the 3-month trend is up. All trends are up on gold. So honestly, all signs are pointing to the upside. However, if you look at this daily chart, we are clearly hesitating here, right? And actually, I didn't even really notice this, but we kind of have a downward trend line here as well. I don't want to admit it, but we kind of have a daily downward trend line right now. That's kind of gonna combat with this upward trend line. It's kind of confusing. Overall, I would say we kind of are sideways since the overall trend is up, but it's definitely a little bit difficult. But in order to remain super bullish on gold, we basically need to remove this supply. So hopefully we can get a reaction off the supply here, push up, maybe create a daily demand zone that breaks this overall downward trend line. This would be a fantastic long buying opportunity to push to the all-time highs. I'm just saying, with the removal of this demand and the creation of this supply and the downward trend line, we could expect gold to continue to drop. And I actually think we will continue to drop because we have a very clean area of weekly demand down at 30.93. It's a very nice base rally area of demand. It's a very nice discount from the all-time high. So I think we have clear profit margin down to this weekly demand, and this is where the major turning point is going to happen, in my opinion. If this breaks, then gold could be going even further. But in my opinion, we created the daily downward trend line there. It could be an indication we pull back down to this weekly area of demand, which is a great dip buying opportunity. You could definitely be trading H4 demands in there, H1 demands in there, and even day trading in there as well. So for now on gold, we're going to be monitoring the daily downward trend line there to see if that continues to hold. And then, like I said, we have profit margin down to the weekly demand. So I'm expecting lower prices on gold. The big question now is, can we hold the momentum, or are we going to push up first? We do have a very nice 1-hour supply above. You can see very nice. I mean, the basing is not bad. The move away is fantastic. And what I love about it is that it's a liquidity trap setup. So we pull back up today, reacted off of it again, pulled back. So it's a very, very good liquidity setup here. I think this could be used to push price even lower at 32.73. So that is the supply zone I will be watching out here on gold. That is really the only trading setup that I am seeing at this time, unless if you look in the 4-hour chart, we have a 4-hour downward trend. So you could be day trading short a 15-minute chart, like I said, with profit margin down to the weekly demand zone at 30.93 on gold. All right, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. This is a very, very interesting pair. Here's why. We have a very good daily supply zone above, and we have 2 daily demand zones. So this is definitely offering a lot of trading opportunity. If you look, these daily demand zones were created because we removed a daily downward trend line, if you can see here. The issue, I did touch on it a little bit earlier in the forecast, is a lot of the times we will see something like this where we have a trend line like this, downward trend line, and then price will push up, fake out above the trend line and quickly bounce back, and then continue the overall downward trend. To me, that's what this kind of looks like here. To me, this looks like a massive manipulation candle followed by 3 red candles. So we could definitely be seeing some sort of fake out here. So we have to be very, very cautious. However, these daily demand zones here and this daily supply zone are offering great swing trading opportunities and even day trading opportunities. So what you could be doing is waiting for these zones to be hit and then waiting on your lower time frames like an H1 and waiting for zones to be created inside of these higher time frames. And that is a classic confirmation model which we discuss in the membership. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links in the description down below. So this week, we will be monitoring these daily zones. If we push up to the daily supply, as a group, we will be monitoring the 1 hour chart to see if we create some supply zones to get in short at. And even if this daily demand continues to hold, we will also be looking for confirmation long entries, and even a pullback down to this daily demand zone, we will be looking for long entries as well on the USDJPY. On the 4 hour chart, we actually have a very good area of resistance. You can see boom, 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 push back up, react off of it again. And we have that 4 hour supply zone that's kind of inside of the overall daily supply zone above. So I think it's a good, maybe potential set and forget trade. So that is another option. And if you look, a nice 4 hour trend line as well. A nice 4 hour trend. This is looking very, very similar to the DXY. So as long as this trend line's holding, you could be looking for longs on a 50-minute chart. I think that is completely reasonable. Now on the 1 hour, like I said, the daily demand's in control right now. We want to be looking for confirmation on the lower time frames, which is the 1 hour chart. Now, if you look here, we actually broke the 1 hour downward trend line. So that is definitely a bullish sign. The unfortunate part is if we zoom in, I really just don't see any demand that removed the trend line. There is a little rally-based rally here. I'm not going to draw it because I don't see it removing any opposing supply. That is just my rule-based system. Again, if you want to learn more about that, we discuss it in the Sunday Zoom strategy sessions, but I don't have that zone as far as my chain analysis goes. However, the break above this trend line, combined with the fact that the daily demand is in control, is definitely a bullish sign. It does not mean I would be looking for longs. Don't get me wrong. If there was a 1 hour demand zone down here, I would say go for it. It's a great confirmation entry model, again, with the higher time frame demand in control. But this did not happen. So what do we do now? In my opinion, what we need to wait for is a clear 1 hour upward trend line. So what that means is if we get that 1 hour upward trend line, essentially a higher time frame demand came in control. We created a lower time frame upward trend line, and then we want to ride the waves of that 1 hour upward trend. So that is what I would be waiting for on gold or on USDJPY. That's what I'd be waiting for the highest odds trading situation right now, unless we can either pull back down to the daily demand or even the daily supply above. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the GBPUSD. You can see on the weekly time frame, beautiful weekly trend on the upside. We just pierced above it. Clearly hesitating here. Look at the consistency of these basing candles all over the place. They look very, very consistent. Just want to point it out. Kind of weird. But we do have a supply zone above. We could be targeting that. It's not a great supply zone from back here. I'm not even going to point it out. It's not that great. I'm just saying that's might be where we are headed, especially since we're kind of creating a liquidity trap there as well. So in my opinion, we are most likely headed to the upside here on the pound. A little bit tricky. It's obviously going to revolve around the DXY as well. If the DXY daily trend continues and the trends continue in the DXY, then obviously this will fall. As far as the pound goes now on the 4 hour chart, we have a nice daily trend to the upside. So as long as this daily trend holds, we have to pretty much remain bullish on the pound. That's just kind of my honest opinion. How do we trade the pound? Well, there's two options. If you think, Kevin, you're absolutely wrong, the pound is going to continue to go down. Well, we have this 4 hour downward trend line. The two touch points are here and here. And what that means is you could be day trading short the day trading timeframes on a 15-minute chart. You can see we pushed up, respected it again, and almost a third time there. So this trend line clearly is being respected. And if it continues, 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be your bread and butter in that situation to ride that 4 hour downward trend. Now, if you are bullish, we have a very, very interesting situation here as well. We had a opposing downward trend line, and that was removed by this demand at 1.32. It's not a bad zone. I don't mind the basing. The move away is not bad. It could be better. I don't love this here, but the overall move away is very, very good. Not only that, we created a liquidity trap here as well, a clear area of support right before the zone. So hopefully a lot of the people have their stop losses here, and the real demand is down below where we can get a beautiful trading setup. So I like this 1 hour demand zone. If you don't feel comfortable with just an entry, stop, and take profit because maybe you think, price is going to continue to respect the 4-hour downward trend, that's fine. You could look for confirmation inside of this 1-hour demand on a 5-minute chart. Kind of treat this 1-hour demand like your higher time frame and then enter on a 5-minute chart. So that would be a kind of a high odds situation here on the GBPUSD. Wait for that 1-hour demand zone to hit. That is really the only option that I am seeing right now for potential long trades. And then, like I said, for shorts, we have a nice 4-hour downward trend line that you could be watching and monitoring to continue to trade short on the day trading timeframes on the GBPUSD. All right, on to the forecast for the USDCAD on the weekly time frame. I thought we were going to pull back down to this weekly area of demand. It's clear to me now that we are basing up here. The big question is how far up are we going to go, and are we going to roll over? So in order to understand that, we're going to have to go down to the lower time frames. And on the daily chart, we still have a very nice daily downward trend line. So the trend's still holding, right? That's why we got this beautiful 1-hour supply zone trade short here. And even one of the members, Alex, one of our better traders, caught this trading setup here on the USDCAD on that 1-hour supply zone. That was called out in the daily market breakdown video, one of the breakdown videos that we release throughout the week. And we pulled back up again. So hopefully, I would have been taking profit. In my opinion, the daily trend is down, but the supply zone himself wasn't that great, and it's kind of creating a resistance here. I don't know. We could still see price pull back down and maybe even hit a 5-to-1. Anyways, so that trade's kind of already taken place. Now, if we remove this proven area of supply, any demand zone here could be good for for potential long trade. So that's an option for long, or we want to wait for this 1-hour demand zone to be hit at 1.388. It's a good demand zone, kind of a liquidity trap here. I'd like to see another reaction off of it to really, indicate to me it's a liquidity trap, but it's a good little 1-hour demand zone. I think we could see a move off of here on the USDCAD. So that is what I'd be watching on the 1-hour time frame. Now on the 4-hour chart, we have kind of a resistance forming here, which doesn't look, it's nothing crazy, but if you look right above it, you can see my red supply zone right above here. And I'm actually just going to tighten it up just a little bit. And that's our supply zone, right? It could act as a liquidity surge supply, something like that. So I think it's worth it to have it on your chart at 1.40. If you look at the zone itself, it's a beautiful zone. It removed a low and some demand down here. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that, but it did remove some stuff. The basing is nice, and the initial move away is fantastic. So I think it could be a high odds shorting opportunity on the USDCAD to trade overall short with the overall daily downward trend line. This 1-hour supply zone short was great, but that 4-hour supply zone is really offering kind of the best risk reward in my opinion here on the USDCAD. Remember guys, any questions at all about anything I'm saying, I respond to every single comment, so don't hesitate to leave me a question or a comment and I'll respond. All right, on to the forecast for the AUDUSD. The weekly chart's not really telling us a lot. The overall momentum and trend I would say is down, so we could technically anticipate lower prices long term. Doesn't mean we're going to see that immediately, and this is just a great example of what a bad chart looks like. Not a lot going on, right? Even here, not much going on here, and then even here, not much going on. So not the best pair, and the reason I leave these on is so that you guys can see. On the 4-hour chart, look at this sideways junk. This is what I like to call sideways soup or whatever you want to call it, but we're just clearly trading in some sort of range here, and we really just need to break out of this range to indicate a trend to the downside or to the upside. It's really that simple as far as understanding direction without making it too complicated. So there's absolutely nothing to go off of on the 4-hour chart. Now on the 1-hour chart here, we had a very nice 1-hour demand zone. If you can see here, very nice downward trend line that was removed by this 1-hour demand zone. We did get a nice move off the zone initially, 2-to-1 pretty much hit there, and we ended up breaking it. We have a demand zone down below. It's kind of a little hidden zone, and what I kind of like about it is, to me, it looks like we might be kind of support trapping out right before the zone, liquidity trap. I really want to see another reaction of it first to really indicate to me that it is a liquidity trap. Nonetheless, it's kind of a little hidden demand zone there, and a lot of people might be questioning why I don't just draw it down here. And look, I'm not going to get into detail. This is a weekly Forex forecast video, but there's many learning tools where you can learn why I have hidden zones like that, and they work beautifully. And you can even learn that stuff in the PDF, the supply and demand full course PDF, which has tons of information, and that comes with the Diamond membership as well. So you want access to that, join the Diamond membership. We have the Sunday Zoom session coming up this week. It should be great, looking at homework as well. So you definitely want that PDF, join the group. So as far as the Aussie goes now, you could be waiting. We have a couple options. We have a 1 hour downward trend line. So you could be looking for shorts on a 5-minute chart. However, all of the higher time frames to the 5-minute chart are telling me it's not the highest odds trading situation. So trade with caution here on the Aussie US dollar, guys. But if you're going to trade it, these are our options. As long as this 1 hour downward trend line's holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are good. And if you're bullish, this is our demand zone long at 0.638. All right, on to the forecast for the USD Swiss. Overall, weekly trend is down, looking very, very similar to the weekly chart on the DXY as well. Fake out below the liquidity. We could be pulling up at least to above 0.87. So in my opinion, lots of upside potential here. However, on the daily chart, you can see we have a little drop-based drop here that is kind of in control. If you notice, it's not a red zone as far as how I usually draw zones because it's not according to my chain analysis, but clearly we are reacting off of this supply. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? And on the 1 hour chart, I was really looking forward to getting a 1 hour downward trend line here. I would have said, okay, great. We have a higher time frame supply and control. Now we have a 1 hour downward trend line. All signs are pointing to the downside here. But if you look, we did not break this low. Therefore, there is no trend line. So that's called a rule-based trend line system. If your mentor is drawing this trend line here, it's probably not a trend line. So we got to be careful. Anyways, could we react off of it? Sure, but we like to see a low. Anyways, this is just a bad looking chart as far as this 1 hour time frame goes. So we either need to wait for a break above this high or a break above that high or that low to give us a trend that we could day trade long. So I'm going to map out that high there and this low. We're basically waiting for this range to break out. If we break out above here, we have a 1 hour trend to the upside. If we break down below and break the low there, we have a 1 hour downward trend. Then what you do is you trade the 5-minute chart according to that trend. So that is what I'd be waiting for here on the USD Swiss. Technically, we have a 4 hour trend to the upside. So in theory, the bulls are in control on this chart. However, with that daily supply and control above, that could kind of cause a little bit of chaos. So we'll have to see what happens here. You definitely want to be monitoring this 4 hour upper trend line. And like I said, the high and the low on the 1 hour chart to indicate kind of the lower time frame trends to indicate where you should be day trading, if day trading long or day trading short on the USD Swiss. Last but not least, we are on to the forecast for crude oil. And if you guys want help with trading psychology, I do a podcast called the Stoic Trading Psychology Podcast. Check it out. Got a couple episodes. Looking forward to doing more. Let me know your feedback. Check it out, Stoic Trading Psychology, wherever you get your podcasts. So on the weekly chart here, we have an overall weekly downward trend. Looks like we based out here and we could be pushing up. That is kind of our overall target to the upside before we could see a significant drop off of that weekly area of supply on oil. On the daily chart, we have a very nice daily downward trend line as well. Coming up to some sort of resistance here. Looks like we are respecting it. Nothing that I would really, write home about, but we'll have to see what happens. As far as the 4 hour chart goes, there's not a lot going on, right? There's really no trends. There is a weekly and a daily downward trend, which is great. But on the H4 and the H1, there's really no trend. So it's very, very difficult. But what I will say is if we break this high right here on the 4 hour chart, we will be able to connect a trend line here, which means we will have an H4 uptrend, which means you could look for longs on a 15-minute chart, and you could easily target this supply up here at 66.26, which is also a liquidity surge trap as well, whatever you like to call it. Now, even if this 4 hour supply zone breaks, we have a supply zone above, and I think this is a great potential supply zone short above. It is a set and forget. It is a little bit risky, and the reason it's risky is because it's taken so long to pull back to it, but it is a good supply zone. The basing is nice. The move away is fantastic. I love the liquidity trap here. I would take a loss at this set and forget all day. And if this one, even if this one breaks, like I said, we have a good one. We have almost an even better one above at 69.46. So to recap here on oil, not really seeing any long opportunities yet until we can remove the high, which would give us an upward trend. Then we could day trade long up to that 4 hour supply, where then we can get in potentially short. If you want to watch the full-length forecast and get my daily chart analysis and daily market breakdown videos, join the Diamond membership. Links in the description down below.